Welcome to episode 666 of Salsidoparanormal. I'm your host, James Salsido, and tonight I am reviewing Stephen King's novel, Firestarter. As always, you can find all episodes of the show, along with links to social media and other ways to contact me at the podcast page, and that is salsidoparanormal.podbean.com. That's SALSIDO paranormal.podbean.com. Always happy to hear from you, whether you have comments or questions or topic suggestions or accounts of paranormal experiences. Whether they're your own or from others that you trust, happy to either read those or have you join me on the show to talk about them. Thank you all for listening, whether you are here for the live streams on Discord or if you listen to the podcast or YouTube feeds or on the Troubled Minds Radio Network, KUAP Digital Broadcasting. There you can hear replays of 2 episodes of my show every night at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern, right before Troubled Minds Radio comes on. And as always, I want to thank Michael Strange, host of Troubled Minds Radio, for having me on the network and putting my shows up there. If you'd like to support my show, you can sorry, I lost my spot. You can share the show with others, or you can leave reviews on your favorite podcast platform. You can also sign up for the Patreon page and get 1 extra episode per week, whenever possible, of true paranormal stories on the web. You can also find books I've written over on Amazon, paranormal fiction and nonfiction, including my most recent release, Salsido Paranormal Experiences, and that is directly from my experiences, along with things I've shared on the podcast. You can also just make one-time donations through PayPal. Support is never expected, but always appreciated, as there are expenses in making these shows, from equipment to research materials to travel expenses in some cases. So I believe that takes care of all that. So recently we just finished reviewing a very amazing book on mythology. And it took a while to do it. I wanted to get back to some reviews of fictional books that I've enjoyed over the years. And I think have been sort of important in different ways in terms of fiction and influencing other fiction. And so, I wanted to sort of get back to some Stephen King books. Basically, the rest of the Stephen King books that I've read, I wanted to go back. The ones I've read and I haven't reviewed yet, I wanted to go back and finish off that reviewing those books. So this is the first part of doing that. And so let me get to I found a summary of the book to help me sort of get through this and remember some things. And it has been years since I've read the book. It's been many years now. So this Firestarter, the novel, is a science fiction horror thriller novel by Stephen King. It was first published in September of 1980. And so here we go. We can get into the plot. It has been sort of turned into different movie and or TV shows here and there. So, but as far as I know, there's only been this one book based on that story. So, or that has been that story. So, the story focuses on a father and daughter. The father's name is Andrew, and the daughter's name is Charlene, even though she's her father calls her Charlie. So, and their last name is McGee. And so they are on the run at the start of the book from a government agency that is known as the Shop. Now, this is a sort of a very sort of black ops, experimental, secret government agency within the U.S. government. And it's featured in 1 or 2 other books, I believe, or at least mentioned in a couple of Stephen King's books. And So yeah, that's sort of basically what it is. And so the book does some flashbacks here and there. But anyway, while he was in college, Andy, that's how he calls himself, uh, was volunteered for an experiment dealing with a drug with hallucinogenic effects, similar to LSD. And of course, this experiment was run by the shop. And this drug gave his future wife, Vicky, minor telekinetic abilities. And it gave him a sort of a temporary mind control that he thinks of as the push. And he uses it to, and this is all developed because of this chemical that they've been given. So, and they both also developed telepathic abilities. So, they were limited, but and their powers were limited, though they weren't sort of that strong overall. In the case of Andy in the story, if he uses that ability to sort of push or to mind control too much, he gets major migraine headaches and even has small brain hemorrhages. So, but of course, they have a daughter, and she develops this really extremely powerful ability of pyrokinesis, which is the ability to start fires, just with her mind. So the novel starts with Charlie and Andy on the run from agents of the shop in New York City, and because what they want to do is they want to capture Andy and Charlie following a raid on the family house in which basically this is what happened when the family tries to stay away from them. They become sort of targets because of or from the shop. So the shop, once they find out about Charlie and her abilities, they want to capture Charlie, and so they make this raid on the house, and the operation goes terribly, and Vicky, the mother, ends up dead, and Andy, while is at work, I believe, with colleagues, he rushes home to find that his wife is dead and his daughter is missing. So this is where he uses his abilities to track down Charlie and the agents of the shop. So he catches up to them at a rest stop, and he uses his limited abilities again to sort of leave one blind temporarily and the other in a coma, and so they run, and that's why they're on the run at the start of the book. It's sort of a flashback, I believe, again. So, and they use assumed identities, and they're basically always on the run ever since then from this agency called the shop. And so the shop finally catches up to them in New York, which is where the book starts. And so they manage to find a family, a couple, a farmer and his wife, and they are near a town in New York called Hastings Glen, which is fictional. But they are tracked down there by the shop again. Now this is sort of pre internet surveillance and all that, so it's not quite as easy to just automatically track people down. But so they do catch up, and they end up the shop ends up trying to kill Andy again and take Charlie again, and so they're basically pinned down at this farm, and Charlie is afraid to use her power, but Andy, seeing no other way to get out of there, asks her to do it, to use her abilities, and she ends up burning the entire farm down and fending off the agents in the process, killing a few of them, again with these extremely powerful pyrokinetic abilities to just set fire to everything. So and so they're on the run again. This book is a lot about them being on the run, and they're able to escape to Vermont, and they find a cabin that used to belong to Andy's grandfather, so that he knew about that being there, and so the shop, meanwhile, is calls in someone, basically a special assassin, to capture the father and daughter, and he's intrigued by Charlie's power, as even though he's been ordered to capture her, and he wants to sort of befriend her and eventually kill her. And this time, the operation is successful, and even though he doesn't get to kill her, the Andy and Charlie are both captured by the shop. And at this point, they're separated and imprisoned in a shop, the shop headquarters, which is in a suburb of Washington, D.C. And so at this point, Andy appears to lose his power. He's basically given up. He doesn't think that he can be that they can ever be free again. And meanwhile, Charlie has not given up, and she does not cooperate for them at all, or with them at all. So there's 6 months later, there's a power failure that allows them to escape, and somehow Andy gets his power back, and then so meanwhile, this assassin, his name is John, manages to disguise himself as a janitor, and convinces Charlie and Andy that he's their friend. Of course, he is this assassin that was hired to find them. So now, at this point, of course, Andy doesn't trust this guy, but and so for a while he pretends to still have no powers, and he manages to find information about doesn't really say, and I forget now. So anyway, he's looking for information. Meanwhile, under John's this assassin that's gained sort of at least Charlie's trust, Charlie begins to show her abilities to him. He convinces her that she should embrace them, and so meanwhile, Andy ends up finding the head of the shop, this secret military experimental organization, and he ends up taking control of this agent named Cap, sort of a code name, and uses they're able to escape eventually, and so meanwhile, John discovers Andy's plan, and decides to use it to his advantage. So let me see here how we're doing on time. Looks like we're good. So Andy and Charlie are reunited after a while. And so first time in 6 months. And of course, John is already there, planning to kill them both. So let me see here. There's a distraction that is provided by Cap, who is losing his mind from a side effect of being pushed by Andy. So Andy, meanwhile, pushes John into jumping from the top level of a barn, which breaks his leg. Now, keep in mind, every time that Andy uses his powers, it could technically possibly kill him. And it gives him an extremely painful migraines. So, but after landing, of course, and breaking his leg, John shoots Andy in the neck and fires a shot at Charlie, but she uses her powers to melt the bullet in the air and then sets John and Cap, this head of this shop that's after them, on fire. So, meanwhile, Andy is dying because he was shot as well. And he tells Charlie to run, to get out of there, and to let the public know about what has been going on, and to make sure that the government can't do anything like what they've done to this family ever again. And so he eventually he does. Not too long after Andy does pass away, and Charlie, who is extremely angry at everything that's happened, she sets the barn on fire, and she ends up killing all the employees of the shop that are still after her, and by setting everything on fire, basically. She's extremely powerful, if I haven't already said that. So the military is called, but and when they fire anything at her, she just melts it all, and she ends up leaving the entire shop facility on fire, and almost everyone there is dead. So, of course, the government covers everything up, and it's released to the media as an attack by terrorists, as a cover story. And the shop, of course, starts to reform and under new leadership, and begins to search for Charlie again. So meanwhile, Charlie has returned to this farm where she and her father had hidden before, the Manders farm, and she decides to go to a magazine outlet company, and she's there with the farmer and his wife for a little while, and she ends up leaving just before shop agents get there, and goes to New York City, and she decides to again contact the magazine and go to them to tell her story to them. And the book ends as she is starting to tell them her story. So that's where that ends. But it is an amazing book in a way. It's of course it's Stephen King, so there is a fair amount of violence and gore and all that kind of stuff. But the idea of, again, government agencies doing experiments on people, and then having paranormal-esque things happen, develop, abilities sort of come about because of these experiments. I mean, this came out many years. It came out in 1980. So think about that in relation to how many other stories you've heard or seen on TV or read about in books that involve secret, either corporate or government laboratories involving people with powers, whether the government is examining them or trying to influence their powers or make them stronger or give them powers. Of course, one of the most famous examples now, I think, of that, to a degree anyway, is Stranger Things. And of course, that's only one aspect of that whole show. And I will be doing a review of that show eventually once the fifth season, I believe it's supposed to be the final season, is released and everything, and it's all out and everything. I will do a whole series of shows to review that show as well, because I think there's just so many amazing ideas there and concepts there as well. But yeah, so this book is Firestarter it's quite the action adventure sort of sci-fi thriller, like I said at the start of the show here. But it's all about power and people wanting to control it and make it stronger, but also still under their control, and how things can go wrong, and the evil that will be done by people to do all those things, to have all that power for themselves. So yeah, that's I think that'll work for this episode. I will be reviewing some more Stephen King books as I go forward here. We will get to some. I still want to talk about some major influential paranormal writers, researchers, scientists, investigators. I will do that at some point as well. We'll be covering John Keel, some of his work, Jacques Vallée. I think I want to talk about who is it now? Well, Hans Holzer, because of all his investigations of the paranormal and haunted places and all that. I'm blanking on the other guy I want to talk about. He wrote a lot of books, and I'm just blanking on that right now. This guy's name. That's funny. But anyway, I would love to do sort of a look into all the major figures who have been involved over many years in writing many books about people's experiences, because that's sort of how I got started, is finding all these sources about and really just online sources to start with. Not even all these books. I didn't know about all these amazing authors until many years later. But it's what inspired me to try to do a similar thing with my own shows now. And so yeah, that's something I want to do at some point. Those will be sort of reviews of certain books, but then also just of these figures in general, these people in general, because many of them have released many books. So there's no way I can review anyone's entire catalog of books in many of these cases. So, boy, that's really annoying me that I cannot remember this one guy's name. But yeah, so we'll be doing that after I get done with this little series of shows on reviewing the rest of the Stephen King books that I've read, and that's the plan for these book review shows. There will be some extra episodes of this podcast this month. I'm not sure when those will come out, but of course, just keep an eye on the podcast and YouTube feeds, and you'll find out about them as soon as they are released. So yeah, and I'll probably remember this guy's name as soon as I get done with the show here, but that's okay. That's how it usually goes. Please check out all the links in every episode description, especially those where I have guests. You can find what they're doing or what they've done with their own time and energy and their own projects and things. And thank you all for listening, and I will talk to you all next time on Salsidoparanormal. Take care.